Okay guys, welcome to my haul for July 2020. I got some good books this month. Books I'm really pleased I got. The first one is a bit of a whale, and it's Untold Tales of Spiderman Omnibus. I'm so pleased I got this because I have bid on this 3 times from the same seller, and they kept taking it down because they didn't have staff because of the coronavirus, which is understandable. But they had somebody there who just kept putting it back up, so I kept bidding on it every time it was up. And eventually, I got it. So I'm really pleased with that. So this contains Amazing Fantasy 16 to 18, Untold Tales 1 to 25, -1, and the 96-97 annual, and Strange Encounter and material from Amazing Spider-Man Annual 37. So Amazing Fantasy 15 was the first appearance of Spider-Man, and then he went on to have his own comic. So this is their way of kind of continuing Amazing Fantasy, even though Amazing Fantasy was never a Spider-Man specific comic. He was in the last issue. There's the lovely red boards with blue embossed writing. Nothing on the back. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this is Kurt Busiek wrote this, and I hear weird things about him. Apparently he's been slagging someone off on Twitter, then blocked them, and the person doesn't understand why. But he's really up on his Spider-Man lore. So everything in this takes place within the first Spider-Man Omnibus. And that's pretty cool. I'll show you when we get to the back. There's a map at the end to kind of guide you through where every issue of this fits in the first omnibus. And that's handy because you don't have to have the omnibus to read them. You can have the trades. If you're really lucky, you could have the original comics, but I doubt there's many people who have them. Mr. Big, I just read that story the other day. So this is Peter's earliest years as Spider-Man, and you can tell by the way he's drawn, it's definitely 60s Peter. There's Flash. Classic Peter Flash argument. But you know, Peter's got that flat hair, he's got the suit. Looks like, is that Betty? Yeah, it is. So this is when they were still going out. And it's nice to have some 60s style stories with a bit more modern artwork. There's MJ, but she first appeared in volume 2 with the full face reveal. But like I said in another video, she was in volume 1, you just never saw her face and they never actually met. So this is going to be, I've not read it, but I assume it's going to be her seeing Spider-Man, that sort of thing. Yeah, this is a pretty cool idea. This is very hard to find. It's one of those whales, and I'm really pleased I got this. I spent more on it than I should have, but since it's out of print, Marvel can't keep up with their announced stuff at the moment, which isn't their fault. They're doing the best they can. Just be patient and the books will come eventually. But they can't keep up with what they planned before the coronavirus. So reprints that haven't even been announced yet, like this, are, you know, it's anyone's guess whether this would ever be reprinted, but it certainly wouldn't be at the moment. So I'm glad I got it. Now, there's not a lot of extras in this. This is the back of the book. It's the last page of, like, the main stuff. There's this shitty, crappy kiddie comic. And then that's all the extras you get. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of extras. When was this printed? Sorry about the camera wobble. At the beginning of September, I think it is, I'm getting a different kind of clamp. At the moment, I've got a gooseneck clamp, which is, it's got a clamp on one end, which I've got attached to my monitor, and then the phone's in the other end, so it wobbles. But the one I want to get is like a mic stand, like a desk-mounted mic stand, but instead of a mic adapter, it's got a phone holder. So when was this published? 2012. So yeah, I guess they didn't have many extras back then, or maybe there just weren't that many to put in here and they've included everything they could. There's no point in including stuff if it's got nothing to do with the comic. So, here's the map, which is fantastic. How to follow Untold Tales of Spider-Man. So you've got Amazing Spider-Man number 6, so you would read Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man 1 to 5, sorry, 1 to 6. Then you'd read Untold Tales 1 and 2. Then Spider-Man 7, Untold 3, Spider-Man 8. So this is really handy to have, so you know how it all fits in with this. And like I said, you don't have to have these. You can have the trades, you can have whatever. You can read it on, what's it called, Marvel Now, or any digital kind of outlet. And this is just really handy for letting you know where everything fits in. But when you look at how many switches there are between the two, it shows Kurt Busiek really put the effort in with his lore and getting things right in the timeline. And that's it. So yeah, I'm really, really ecstatic that I got this. Really am. Up next is one that I wasn't too bothered about, but I'm so close to having all of them, I wanted to get this. Now, it's Spiderman's Tangled Web. This one comes with a remainder mark. The issue I have with this, I don't mind paying £80 for an omnibus. And I actually don't mind thin omnibus, as long as it hasn't been split up for no reason like the Brubaker Daredevil books. This is everything that was ever released as Spiderman's Tangled Web. So I don't mind having it as a thin book. What I do mind is that. That's way too much. So brand new, this would be £80. I got this for 30 because it's used and with a remainder mark. There's the cover. That's the alternate cover. I resent paying £80 for this, new, when this is like, you can get it for £70, brand new, when it's printed. Both £80. That's not worth it, that is. And the other thing that annoys me about this one is, who wanted this? Like, I don't mind them doing it, but who... It's the same as Superior Foes of Spider-Man. Who wanted it? Who was saying, give us this omnibus? I can't imagine there were very many people. Like, why did they give us Superior Foes of Spider-Man when there's an entire volume of Amazing Spider-Man, which is Superior Spider-Man? 35 issues, something like that. That would have been the perfect size for an omnibus. And it would collect an entire volume of Spider-Man. It just makes no sense to me that they give us these crappy, out-of-the-way books. I really don't like that art. Yeah, we get these crappy, out-of-the-way books, but we don't get the ones we want. That being said, I honestly haven't read this. I remember seeing it printed in the English comics when I was a kid, in like the early 2000s, and they had the Rhino cover. That one. I remember on the back of the comic they advertised this as the next cover for the next issue. This one seems to have a much lighter tone, although like I said, I've never read it, so who knows, but the art is certainly more childish than most of it. So that's the end of the comic book. You've got that cover, and then that's it. Even less extras than Untold Tales. When was this printed? (2017). I guess there just weren't that many extras to include. So this includes Tangled Web 1-4 and Spiderman's Tangled Web 5-22. So it's an entire run. 22 issues. Can't complain that it's thin. Just not keen on them charging the same price for this as a proper big omnibus. £30, I'm happy with that. The next one I've wanted for ages and finally managed to get it. The Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski. Oh, I've never read any of these because I stopped reading mainstream Spider-Man and continued with Ultimate Spider-Man when I was a kid. So my Amazing Spider-Man as a kid was the late John Byrne stuff and the John Romita stuff that followed it. Sorry, John Romita Jr. And then I continued with Ultimate Spider-Man. What does this collect? Wow. Amazing Spider-Man 515 to 545, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 1-4 and 24, Marvel Knights Spider-Man 19 to 22. See, that one bugs me. I don't mind it being included, it's just they didn't call the Daredevil by Joe Quesada omnibus Daredevil because it had the Punisher story in it, which was Marvel Knights, and it was Marvel Knights by Joe Quesada. So why wasn't Marvel Knights? You see, it just makes no sense. Where were we? Sensational Spider-Man 41, Spider-Man the Other Sketchbook, and Spider-Man One More Day Sketchbook. This has a super square spine because this, due to the coronavirus, wasn't printed in China, I think. It was printed somewhere else where they print it or bound it like that. I've stretched the spine, don't worry. That's what it looks like, but pretty sure that'll open up a bit more as I read it, and I am looking forward to reading this. The biggest issue I have with this is that there are a few events, like Civil War, stuff like that, where Straczynski wrote the Spider-Man issues, so they were included, but then you don't get the rest of it, so you only get like a snapshot of the story because it wasn't Straczynski. And this is why they should get rid of these creator omnibus and just print, because this is volume 2. One More Day ends volume 2 and volume 3 starts with Brand New Day. There's like 26 or something, 30 issues before volume 1, and I've talked about this before. They could have just been included, and they could have just had volume 2 split into 3 omnibuses. Creators be damned, just print it all and don't exclude any issues. You know, they don't do that, so we end up missing issues. That reminds me, is Final Fantasy VIII. Nice to see Morland back. I want to read all of his stuff before I read Spider-Verse, although I'm not sure what format I'm going to get Spider-Verse in, because I saw Omar's video about it. And apparently it's been printed in, like, there you go, Civil War. You get like 1 or 2 issues of that, but not the whole thing. Yeah, the Spider-Verse hardcover is printed like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4, Spider-Verse 1, Spider-Verse 2, Spider-Verse 3, Spider-Verse 4, that sort of order, rather than in chronological order. So if you want to read the story as it was meant to be read, what you have to do is keep going back to the contents page. I think they had a map at the beginning of the book so you know what order to read things in, and I just think, why print it like that? Just print it in order. Sadly, there's no John Romita Jr. in this. He's my favourite. But, you know, the art looks good as it is. Joe Quesada, you can't go wrong. So this book actually kind of reset Spider-Man. Volume 2 didn't really reset much. It brought Aunt May back, and that's about it. But this kind of resets a lot. When we're going all the way back to MJ and Peter falling in love, getting married, that sort of thing. That's from volume 1. That guy's called the Digger, and he's made up of 7 radioactive dead mobsters. That's from volume 1 as well. That's Happy Birthday. That's volume 1. There's a lot of stuff from volume 1 here. That's volume 1. Oh, it's all Straczynski anyway, so it don't matter. Yeah, quite a few extras in that. So pleased I got this, because I had this pre-ordered, cancelled it, bought it again, didn't turn up. I seem to be one of those unlucky people. So yes, I'm very pleased I finally managed to get it. If you're wondering, the spine matches up with volume 1 perfectly. Now, the final thing I got this month was 2 books. And I'm not in a rush to read these. I'll just read them like one issue whenever I feel like it, because they're old. It is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers archive books. So basically, these are from Boom. Boom has printed almost every Power Rangers comic that came out before they took over the license. And I think that's brilliant, because we now have these really cool trades, and they're very thick. That was volume 1. That's volume 2. They match up nicely. I'm kind of surprised they're both red, because with the oversized hardcovers, you got they change the colour each time. So keeping this red for both volumes is kind of weird. Now, I like these. These have amazing spines. I don't know if people have noticed, but spines on trades have massively improved in the last 5 years or so. That's where the Marvel stuff starts. Like, I can have this open like that. That guy, Ron Lim, I recognised his artwork straight away because he drew Spider-Man Unlimited, and some of that stuff's in Clone Saga Volume 1. If you look at Tommy's face, you'll probably recognise his style. So yeah, I can have the book open like that, right, which is decent. And then you look at the spine, not a single crack. And that's amazing, because they used to crack like that, but now they don't. That's brilliant. The only thing I don't like about these, and this is being a bit picky, because I'm glad we got these, so I'm not massively pissed off or anything. These are the same size as a trade paperback. And look how thick they are. So I think it would have been nice when you put two of them together. Look how much content there is. And I got one of these for £8 and the other for £12, so they average out at £10 each. So £20 for both, brand new. What I would have preferred is if they'd have made it an oversized hardcover like this, made everything line up with the other deluxe editions, and, you know, make it this size. I would have paid £60 for that. £40 more than what they're charging for these. I hope Boom are listening, because I would buy these again if they were released in this format. But I know Boom, they don't listen to their customers. Anyway, this collects almost all of the comics before Boom took over. And there's a few odd exceptions, and they really are odd. It's like, there's a couple that have the Masked Rider in, and they've been omitted. But by and large, you're getting like 99% of everything that was printed before. Volume 2 even goes on to like Super Samurai and Megaforce. This was back when they still drew the power coin on the Rangers chests. And I heard the reason they did that was a legal one. So it was before the movies. Sorry, before the movie. You used to get discount toys, you know, made in China, and they looked just like the Power Rangers, except the only difference is they had a power coin on their chest, whereas the actual Ranger toys didn't. And I don't know how true this is, so take it with a pinch of salt, but I heard the reason they drew the comics like this is so that they could claim that those toys were breaching copyright. Again, don't know how true it is. I don't like the coins on the Rangers chests. I like them on the Ninja Ranger costumes, you know, the robes, but I don't like them on the main costumes. And the costumes in the movie were just strange, absolutely strange. Kinda liked them, kinda didn't. I liked aspects of the redesign, let's put it like that. Now this has some... Did I just see the Joker? No, can't have. Oh, that's what I thought the Joker was. This has a mix of publishers. So you've got Hamilton Comics, Marvel Comics, and that's it for Volume 1. And I'll just show you, there's some proper talent in here, like can't find it. You can tell this is Marvel because that's a very Silver Age Marvel thing to do. And as I was saying, there's talent in here, like Steve Ditko. That's crazy that Ditko was drawing Power Rangers in the 90s. I love that. So, Volume 1 is like Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. If you think seasons 1 to 3, that's pretty much what you get in there. Whereas Volume 2 has Image Comics, Acclaim, Valiant Comics, and Paper Cuts. And this branches out a bit. So, you got Zeo. It opens with Zeo. Then you got Turbo. And there aren't a lot of them. And then you got Super Samurai. So it amazes me that after Turbo, there were no Power Rangers comics all the way up until Super Samurai. And it's only like recently with Boom and like the Psychopath that we're getting extra comics. I guess a lot of kids didn't like comics in the 2000s for some reason. And then you got... Oh, was this the very short reboot? I vaguely remember this. Never read it, but I remember it being a thing. Like before Boom took over, somebody else tried to reboot it. And then, there you go, that dude. What are they called? Megaforce. So you do get a fair amount of variety in Volume 2. Volume 1 is mostly Mighty Morphin 1 to 3, and then this is like everything else. And usually when Boom do these collections, you get an issue of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic, and it's usually the prologue, which is issue 0. But this time they've opted to go for issue number 1. And I miss when Henry Presecha did the art, because he nailed it. I don't like the new person. And then you get a few extras. And that's it. So, that's my haul. For July 2020, next month, if all goes according to plan, and that's a big if, I should have something – very, very special next month. call it My White Whale. So yeah, that's been my haul for July 2020. I hope you all enjoyed it.